My mother called it a simple celebration, but when the bill hit the table, I knew it was an ambush. $3,000 for a dinner I did not order, stared down by relatives who treated me like an open wallet, instead of folding. I placed exactly $65 on the tablecloth, my share, and walked out. I did not know then that paying for my salad would end up costing me my entire family. My phone vibrated against the mahogany grain of my desk. A short, sharp buzz that signaled an interruption I did not want. I looked down at the screen. The name displayed was Mom. I let it buzz twice more before picking it up. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and my spreadsheets were balanced. My rent was paid for the next month. My savings account had grown by exactly 4% over the last quarter. I liked my life this way. I liked it boring. I liked it predictable. I liked knowing that if my car broke down or my water heater burst, I could handle it without panicking, without begging, and without sinking into the kind of chaotic debt that seemed to run through my family's bloodline like a genetic defect. "Hello, Mom," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Kennedy. Oh, thank God." Marlene Stewart's voice came through, breathless and pitched slightly higher than necessary. "I have been trying to reach you all morning. We need to do dinner. Tonight." I frowned, checking my calendar. It was completely empty, which was exactly how I planned to spend my evening. I had a chicken breast thawing in the fridge and a new book on my nightstand. "I am a little tired." "Mom," I said, "can we do it weekend after next?" "No," she insisted, the breathlessness shifting into a tone of fragile urgency. "The family needs this right now. It has been such a hard year for everyone, and with Tyler finally getting his footing with that new business idea, I want us to celebrate. Just a small celebration, a family dinner, my treat to everyone for sticking together." I hesitated. The phrase "my treat" was a rare bird in the Stewart household. Usually, family dinners consisted of potlucks where half the guests forgot to bring a dish, or backyard barbecues where Tyler asked to borrow $20 for beer money and never paid it back. But if Mom was offering to host, and if she was framing it as a necessity for family morale, I felt the old, familiar tug in my chest. It was the anchor of guilt I had been dragging around since my father died. I was the one who made it out. I was the one with the steady job in logistics, the 401k, and the credit score that did not look like a temperature reading. "Okay," I said, against my better judgment. "Where are we going?" "The Gilded Lily," she said. 7 o'clock. Do not be late." She hung up before I could process the name. The Gilded Lily was not a place for a small family dinner. It was the newest, most ostentatious steakhouse in the downtown district of Briar Glen. It was the kind of place where they charged $5 for ice cubes, and the waiters wore tuxedos that cost more than my first car. It was a place for anniversaries, proposals, and corporate mergers, not for a Tuesday night catch-up with a family that historically struggled to keep the lights on. I arrived at 10 minutes past 7, having spent 20 minutes circling the block to find parking because I refused to pay the $30 valet fee. The evening air was crisp, but I was sweating under my blazer. My stomach churned with a premonition I could not quite articulate. I told myself I was being cynical. I told myself that maybe Tyler really had turned a corner with his latest venture. Whatever it was this month, maybe Mom had come into a small windfall. Maybe, just this once, we could have a normal meal. I walked through the heavy double doors of the restaurant. The interior was dimly lit, smelling of truffle oil and expensive cologne. A hostess with perfect posture led me through the main dining room, past the tables for 2 and 4, toward the back of the restaurant where the semi-private banquettes were located. As we approached, my steps slowed. Mom had said a small celebration. She had implied it would be me, her, and Tyler. Maybe Tyler's girlfriend. Instead, I saw a crowd. There were 12 people squeezed into a long, curved booth meant for 10. My brother Tyler was in the center, his arm draped over the back of the booth like a king holding court. Next to him was his girlfriend, a woman named Ashley, who I had met twice and who seemed to communicate primarily through gum chewing and eye rolls. But they were not alone. My Aunt Linda was there, along with her husband, Uncle Mike, 2 of my cousins, Sarah and Ben, were present, as were a couple of distant relatives I had not seen since Christmas 3 years ago. The table was already cluttered with glassware, crystal flutes of champagne, heavy tumblers of amber liquor, and intricate cocktails garnished with exotic fruit crowded the white tablecloth. Several tiered towers of seafood, oysters, shrimp, crab claws, sat like icy monuments in the center of the spread. "Kennedy!" Tyler roared. Spotting me, he stood up, his face flushed, a glass of bourbon in his hand. The prodigal sister returns. He looked good. I had to admit, he was wearing a suit jacket that looked new, though the sleeves were a fraction too long. He had the Stewart charm, that wide, easy smile that made people want to forgive him for everything. It was a smile that had gotten him out of speeding tickets and into loans he had no business taking. I squeezed past the hostess. "I thought this was a small dinner," I said, looking at Mom. Marlene was seated at the head of the table, wearing a sequined top that caught the low light. She reached out and grabbed my hand, pulling me into the only empty seat, a folding chair they had pulled up to the corner of the table. "It is a celebration, honey," she said, her voice loud enough to carry to the neighboring tables. "And you cannot celebrate without family. Sit down. You look stressed. You work too hard." I sat, placing my purse on the floor between my feet, keeping the strap looped around my ankle. It was a habit I had developed years ago. I did not know everyone was coming. I said, trying to keep my voice level, "Well, I wanted to thank everyone," Marlene announced, looking around the table with a misty, benevolent expression. "I wanted to treat my family. God knows I have done everything I can to keep us all afloat these last few years. It is time we enjoyed the finer things. Just for one night." A waiter appeared at my elbow almost instantly. "Can I get you a drink, miss? Just a diet soda, please," I said. "Oh, come on, Ken," Tyler shouted. He leaned across the table, his breath smelling faintly of smoke and expensive whiskey. "Live a little. It is on the house. Or, well, on Mom. Get a martini. Get that bottle of wine you like. I have to work tomorrow." "Tyler," I said, "just the soda." The waiter nodded and vanished. I looked at the seafood towers. They were already half demolished. Uncle Mike was currently digging the meat out of a lobster claw with the intensity of a surgeon. "So, Tyler," I said, gesturing to the spread, "business is good?" Tyler grinned, popping a shrimp into his mouth. "Better than good. Kennedy, it is explosive. Northbridge." Outdoor Concepts is going to change the landscaping game in this state. We are talking high-end, eco-friendly installs. The contracts are practically writing themselves. "That is great," I said. I genuinely meant it. If Tyler was successful, maybe he would stop asking Mom for money. If he stopped asking Mom for money, maybe she would stop calling me in a panic because her electric bill was overdue. "It is all thanks to your mother," Aunt Linda chimed in, waving a fork at Marlene. She believed in him when nobody else did. Marlene dabbed at her eye with a cloth napkin. "I just do what mothers do. I support my children, both of them, even the ones who are too busy to call me." The barb was small, sharp, and practiced. I felt the familiar weight of it in my chest. The obligation to apologize for having a job that required 40 hours of my week. "I call you every Sunday. Mom," I said quietly. Marlene waved her hand dismissively. "I am just teasing. Kennedy, don't be so sensitive. You are always so serious. That is why we invited you. You need to loosen up." The waiter returned with my soda and a stack of leather-bound menus. He began handing them out. I opened mine and felt my eyebrows climb toward my hairline. The cheapest entree was $35. The steaks averaged $60. There were sides of truffle mac and cheese for $18. Tyler did not even open his menu. "I am getting the tomahawk," he announced to the table, "and throw a lobster tail on top. Surf and turf." "Baby," Ashley giggled. "I will have the filet. And can we get another round of those crab cakes? They were so good." "Get whatever you want," Marlene said, beaming. "This is my treat. A thank you for all I have done." The phrasing stuck in my ear. A thank you for all I have done. It was backward. If she was treating us, Shouldn't she say, because I love you? But Marlene's language was always transactional. She viewed her motherhood as a ledger, a series of debts accrued by her children that could never fully be repaid. I scanned the menu, looking for the salad section. "I will have the ribeye," Uncle Mike said. "Sea bass for me," Aunt Linda added. The orders went around the table, each more extravagant than the last. When the waiter came to me, I closed the menu. "I will just have the grilled chicken Caesar salad," I said. Tyler let out a loud, barking laugh. "A salad? Seriously? We are at the Gilded Lily, Kennedy, not a mall food court. Get a steak. I am not that hungry." I lied. "She is always so careful," Tyler said to the table, shaking his head. "Even when it is free, she is counting pennies. You know she still drives that sedan from college? The one with the dent in the bumper? It runs fine," I said, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. "It is embarrassing, is what it is," Tyler said, though he was smiling as if it were a joke. "You make more money than all of us combined, and you live like a nun. I save my money." "Tyler, that is not a crime. It is when you are sitting on a hoard while your family struggles," he shot back, the smile slipping for a fraction of a second before returning. "But hey, tonight you do not have to worry about your precious savings account. Mom has got it covered." I looked at Mom. She was sipping her third glass of wine, watching the exchange with a look of satisfaction. She liked this. She liked being the benefactor, and she liked Tyler teasing me. It reinforced the family narrative. Tyler was the wild, lovable dreamer who needed help, and I was the cold, stingy pragmatist who needed to be taken down a peg. I caught the waiter's eye before he walked away. "Excuse me," I said. "Yes, ma'am? Could you please put my order on a separate check?" The table went silent. The chatter about football and landscaping abruptly ceased. Marlene's smile froze. Her eyes, usually watery with feigned emotion, snapped into focus. She leaned forward. "Kennedy," she said. Her voice was low, but it carried a dangerous edge. "Do not be embarrassing. I am not being embarrassing. Mom, I just prefer to pay for my own meal. You said this was a celebration, but I know things have been tight. I don't want to put pressure on you." Marlene let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Pressure? Honey, I am treating you. Why do you have to make everything so complicated? Why do you have to act like you are better than us? I am not acting like I am better. We will split it like adults," Marlene interrupted, turning to the waiter with a bright, fake smile. "Just one check. Please, my daughter is just being, well, she is being Kennedy." The waiter looked uncomfortable. He glanced at me, then at Marlene. "One check." Tyler commanded, "Do not listen to her. She is just allergic to fun." The waiter nodded and retreated. I sat back, my heart thumping a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I wanted to leave. I should have left right then. But the social contract of the family dinner held me in place. If I walked out now, before the food even arrived, I would be the villain for the next decade. I would be the hysterical daughter who ruined Mom's nice night. So I stayed. I drank my soda. I ate my salad when it arrived, picking at the lettuce while everyone around me tore into steaks the size of hubcaps. The dinner dragged on for 2 hours. The alcohol flowed freely. Uncle Mike ordered a bottle of scotch for the table that cost $300. Tyler ordered a second appetizer platter halfway through the main course because he felt like snacking. I watched them. I watched the way they ate, with a kind of desperate entitlement. It was as if they were consuming not just the food, but the idea of wealth. They were acting out a fantasy where they were the kind of people who did this every Tuesday. And I was the audience, the witness they needed to validate the performance. Marlene spent the meal holding court, telling stories about our childhood that I did not remember happening. She talked about how she had sacrificed her career to raise us, how she had gone without new clothes so we could have Christmas presents. "And look at us now," she slurred slightly, raising her glass, all together, successful, happy. When the plates were cleared, I checked my watch. 9:30, I had to get up at 6 for work. "Well," I said, preparing to stand. "This was lovely. Mom, Thank you, but I really should get going. Sit down, Marlene said. We are not done. We have to do dessert. I am really full. Mom, it is tradition, she snapped. We did not have a tradition of eating dessert at steakhouses. We had a tradition of eating store-bought ice cream in front of the television. But I sat back down. The waiter brought the dessert menus. Without asking anyone, Tyler ordered 3 chocolate lava cakes, 2 cheesecakes, and a flaming baked Alaska. While we waited for the sugar overdose, Marlene cleared her throat. She tapped her spoon against her wine glass. I just want to say one more thing, she began. Here we go. I thought, we have always had a rule in this family, she said. Even if we do not say it out loud often enough, we share. We share our burdens, and we share our joys, and we share our luck. The table murmured in agreement. Ashley nodded vigorously, chewing her gum. So, Marlene continued, looking around the table, her gaze sliding over me without stopping, to keep things fair, so nobody keeps score, and so nobody feels like they owe anyone anything, we always split things evenly. That is the Stewart way. My stomach dropped. What happened to my treat? I asked. Marlene turned to me, her expression one of wounded surprise. Kennedy, don't be so literal. I organized the dinner. I brought us all together. That is my contribution. But surely you do not expect me, a widow on a fixed income, to foot the entire bill for 12 people? The trap sprung shut. It was so elegant, so practiced. I almost admired it. She had lured me in with the promise of a treat, waited until the bill was insurmountable, and then invoked a fake tradition to distribute the cost. But Mom, I said, keeping my voice steady, though my hands were trembling under the table, you explicitly said my treat. You said thank you for all I have done. And I am thanking you, she cried, by bringing you here, by including you. God, Kennedy, why does everything have to be a fight with you? Why are you so cheap? I am not being cheap, I said. I ordered a salad and a soda. Tyler ordered a $100 steak and enough alcohol to kill a horse. Hey, Tyler shouted, pointing a fork at me, do not count my pockets. Kennedy, we are a family. We support each other. If you were struggling, we would cover you. That was a lie. When I was in college and my laptop broke, I asked Mom for a loan. She told me to get a second job. When Tyler wrecked his car 3 months later, she bought him a new one. I looked around the table. Uncle Mike was looking at the ceiling. Aunt Linda was studying her cuticles. They knew this was a hustle. They knew I was the target, but they were also beneficiaries of the hustle. If the bill was split evenly, they got a 5-star meal for a fraction of the price, subsidized by me. The waiter arrived with the desserts. He placed the flaming baked Alaska in the center of the table. The blue fire danced, casting long, flickering shadows on their faces. Enjoy, he said. I did not eat. I watched them devour the desserts. I watched Tyler lick chocolate off his spoon. I watched Marlene sip her coffee. Looking triumphant, finally, the check came. The waiter placed the black leather folder in the center of the table. Marlene reached out and took it. She opened it, looked at the total, and didn't even flinch. She closed it and slid it across the tablecloth. It stopped directly in front of me. Just over 3,000, she murmured, not looking at me. She was looking at the bill, smoothing the leather cover with her thumb. I stared at the folder. $3,000. Okay, Marlene announced. 12 of us. That is, what? $250 a person? That is nothing for a night like this. She looked at me then. Her eyes were hard, challenging. You can handle it, she whispered. You are the stable one. Something inside me broke. It was not a loud break. It was a quiet, structural failure. Like a support beam snapping deep underground. I reached for the folder. I opened it. The total was $3,042.18. I looked at the itemized list. Tomahawk ribeye, $125. Lobster tail, add-on, $45. Macallan, 18, $350. Bottle. Seafood tower X2, $400. I scanned down until I found my items. Grilled chicken Caesar, $2,400. Soda, $400. I pulled out my phone and opened the calculator. 24 plus 4 is 28. Tax in Briar Glen was 8%. That brought it to $30.24. I added a generous 20% tip on my portion, plus a little extra to cover the waiter's suffering. $65. That was what I owed. That was what I had consumed. I reached into my purse. I always carried cash. It was part of being careful. It was part of being the backup plan. I pulled out 3 $20 bills and a 5. I placed the cash on top of the receipt. Then, I took a pen from my purse. I always carried a pen, and wrote on the merchant copy of the receipt. Kennedy Stewart. Paid in full. $6,500. I closed the folder. I stood up. The table went quiet. They were waiting for me to pull out my credit card. They were waiting for the platinum card, the one with the high limit, the one that would make this problem go away so they could go home feeling full and rich. "What are you doing?" Tyler asked. A piece of chocolate cake still stuck to the corner of his mouth. "I paid my share," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. It was calm, terrifyingly calm. Marlene's face hardened. The mask of the benevolent matriarch slipped, revealing the desperate, grasping woman beneath. "What?" she hissed. "I put $65 in the folder." I said, "That covers my salad, my soda, the tax, and a $30 tip for the waiter." Tyler laughed, a nervous, jagged sound. "Come on. Ken, don't be like that. Stop joking. Put the card down. I am not joking." "Tyler," I saw movement in my periphery. Sarah and Ben, my cousins, had their phones out. They were holding them under the edge of the table. Lenses pointed at me. They were recording. They expected a spectacle. They wanted the meltdown. They wanted the content. I looked at Marlene. Her hands were clenched into fists on the white tablecloth. "We split evenly," she said. "That is the rule. That is a rule you made up 10 minutes ago to get someone else to pay for your party." I said, "How dare you?" Marlene whispered. "After everything I have done for you, you would embarrass me like this? Over money? It is not about the money." "Mom," I said. "Then pay the bill," she shrieked. People at other tables turned to look. The Gilded Lily was not a place for shrieking. I picked up my purse. I slung the strap over my shoulder. "I am leaving," I said. "You cannot leave," Tyler yelled, standing up. "We don't have the money." "That sounds like a problem for the people who ordered the food," I said. I turned my back on them. It was the hardest thing I had ever done physically. My legs felt like lead. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. Every instinct I had conditioned into me for 34 years screamed at me to turn around, to apologize, to fix it, to pay the $3,000 and keep the peace. But I kept walking. I walked past the seafood towers. I walked past the waiter, who looked terrified. I paid my portion. I told him as I passed, $65 is in the book. He just nodded. I pushed open the heavy double doors and stepped out into the cool night air. The valet stand was to my left. My car was 3 blocks away. As the door swung shut behind me, I heard Marlene's voice, muffled but distinct, cutting through the heavy wood and glass. "Don't you walk out on your family?" I started walking. I did not run. I walked to my car, got in, locked the doors, and sat there in the dark. I did not cry. I just breathed. I looked at the dashboard clock. It was 9:45. I had saved $3,000 tonight. But as I put the car in gear and pulled away from the curb, I knew the real cost was yet to come. I woke up to a phone that was practically vibrating off the nightstand. The morning sun was filtering through the blinds, casting slatted shadows across my duvet, a peaceful visual that stood in stark contrast to the digital war zone awaiting me on my screen. I had slept fitfully, tossing and turning as the adrenaline from the night before slowly metabolized into a heavy, sickening dread. I reached for the phone. It was 7:15 in the morning. There were 43 unread text messages, 7 missed calls, 3 voicemails. I sat up, pulling the pillow against my chest like a shield, and began to scroll. The first wave of texts had come in around 10:30 the previous night, presumably right after the bill at the Gilded Lily had finally been settled. "I cannot believe you. My cousin Sarah wrote, 'We are family. You do not do that to family.' Uncle Mike had to put it on 2 different credit cards. Aunt Linda texted, 'He is retired. Kennedy, you know he is on a fixed income. How do you sleep at night?' Then came Tyler. His texts were a stream of consciousness, a erratic burst of rage and self-pity. 'You humiliated Mom. She is crying in the car. You selfish B-word. I hope you are happy with your $65. You just cost us everything.' I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. I had not cost them everything. I had cost them a free meal, but in the Stewart family economy, denying a request was the same as theft. I hesitated over the voicemails. The most recent one was from Marlene. It was 2 minutes long. I pressed play and held the phone to my ear. At first, there was just the sound of wet, ragged breathing. Then, a sob. "Kennedy." Marlene's voice cracked. "I do not know who you are anymore. I really don't. I raised you to be generous. I raised you to care about people." There was a pause, a blowing of a nose, and then the tone shifted. It dropped an octave, losing the sorrow and gaining a jagged edge of fury. "You left us there. You walked out like we were strangers. Do you know what the manager said to us? Do you know how embarrassing it was to have to scrape together cards like beggars? You have plenty. You have so much, and you would not help your brother on his big night. You are cold. Kennedy, your father would be ashamed of you." The line clicked dead. I lowered the phone. The mention of my father was a low blow, a precision strike designed to bypass my logic and hit the softest part of my grief. Dad had been the generous one, the one who would give the shirt off his back, which was exactly why he died with nothing but a life insurance policy that Marlene burned through in 18 months. I needed coffee. I needed a shower. But mostly, I needed to stop the shaking in my hands. I showered in scalding water, scrubbing my skin as if I could wash away the feeling of the restaurant, the smell of truffle oil and deception. When I got out, wrapped in a towel, I decided to call Marlene. Avoiding it would only validate her narrative that I was a coward. I was not a coward. I was right. I dialed her number. She answered on the first ring. "I am not doing this over text." "Mom," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Oh, so now you want to talk?" Marlene snapped. Her voice was clear, the sobbing from the voicemail completely gone. "Now that you are safe in your apartment with your money, you want to talk?" "I paid for what I ate. Mom, I paid for what I drank. I tipped the waiter. I did nothing wrong." "You ruined everything," she said. "It wasn't about the salad, Kennedy. It was about the gesture. It was about showing that we are a united front." "United front?" I asked. "Or a solvency front? Because it felt a lot like you were using me to bankroll a party you couldn't afford." "How dare you?" she hissed. "We could afford it. It was just, cash flow is tight right now. Tyler is waiting on some checks to clear. You know how business is." "I do know how business is," I said. "I work in logistics. Checks clear in 2 days, not 2 years. Stop talking like an accountant and start acting like a daughter," she shouted. "Do you know what it looked like when you walked out? People were staring. You made us look poor. Kennedy, you made us look like we couldn't handle our business." There it was, the core of the issue. It wasn't that they were hungry. It wasn't even strictly that they were broke. It was that I had punctured the illusion. I had exposed the vulnerability they spent every waking moment trying to lacquer over with leased cars and brand-name clothes. "I did not make you look poor." "Mom," I said quietly, "ordering $3,000 worth of food without the money to pay for it made you look poor." "You are heartless," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Just heartless. I don't want to talk to you right now. Do not come over this weekend. I can't look at you." She hung up. I stared at the phone. I had been uninvited from a house I paid the property taxes on last year. The irony was so thick I could taste it. I got dressed for work, a gray blazer, black slacks, sensible heels, my armor. When I arrived at the office, I kept my head down. I worked in a large, open-plan space, managing shipping lanes for a mid-sized distribution firm. It was unglamorous, detail-oriented work, and I loved it. Boxes went from point A to point B. If they didn't, there was a tracking number to find out why. There were no emotional variables. I was at my desk, deep in a spreadsheet about freight tariffs, when a shadow fell over my monitor. I looked up. It was Jessica, a coordinator from the marketing department. We were lunch buddies, the kind of friends who exchanged memes and complained about the office coffee but rarely discussed deep trauma. "Hey," Jessica said. She looked uncomfortable. She was holding her phone. "Hey," I said, bracing myself. "Everything okay with the Denver shipment?" "No, Denver is fine," she said. She shifted her weight. "Look, I wasn't going to say anything, but are you okay?" I frowned. Why wouldn't I be? Jessica bit her lip. She turned her phone screen toward me. It was Facebook. A post from Tyler Stewart. It had been posted 4 hours ago. It was a block of text against a black background, the universal signal for a vague booking meltdown. It is funny how some people think boundaries are just an excuse to be cruel. Tyler wrote, "You support people for years. You love them. You welcome them to the table. And the second you ask for a little support back, they leave you high and dry. Sad to realize that some family members care more about their bank account balance than their own flesh and blood. Keep your circle small. Folks, the snakes are closer than you think." Below the text, there were dozens of comments. So true. Bro, keep your head up. Money changes people. Sad. Karma never misses. I felt the blood drain from my face. He hadn't tagged me. He hadn't named me. But anyone who knew us, anyone who knew I was the only sister, the only other sibling, knew exactly who the snake was. "I did not know Tyler was on your friends list," I said, my voice sounding hollow. "He requested me after the company Christmas party last year," Jessica said gently. "I just saw this on my feed. I assume it is about you?" I stared at the screen. The likes were ticking up. "It is complicated," I said, pushing the phone away gently. "I am sorry." "Ken," Jessica said, "families are... Yeah, if you need anything, let me know." She walked away, but the damage was done. The smear was spreading. It wasn't just a family squabble anymore. It was public relations. Tyler was controlling the narrative, painting himself as the victim of a greedy sister. And because I was not the type to air dirty laundry on the internet, his version was the only one people were seeing. I closed my eyes for a moment, breathing in the scent of stale coffee and printer toner. I needed a strategy. At 5:30, I met Alina Cross at a coffee shop 3 blocks from my apartment. Alina had been my best friend since college. She was a lawyer, sharp-tongued and fiercely loyal, the kind of person who would help you bury a body but lecture you about the improper digging technique while doing it. I sat down, sliding into the booth opposite her. I looked wrecked, and I knew it. "You look like you went 12 rounds with a heavyweight," Alina said, pushing a latte toward me. "I went 12 rounds with a ribeye steak and a guilt trip." I told her everything. The ambush, the seafood towers, the fake tradition, the $65, the voicemail, Tyler's post. Alina listened without interrupting, her expression darkening with every detail. When I finished, she sat back and crossed her arms. "Okay," she said. "First of all, I am proud of you. Walking out took guts. It felt like cruelty." I whispered, "It felt like surgery." Alina corrected, "Surgery hurts, Kennedy, but it is necessary to cut out the rot. And let's be honest, this rot has been spreading since your dad died." I looked down at my coffee foam. "You are right. When Dad passed away 5 years ago, he left a void that was both emotional and financial. He had been a contractor, a man who moved money from one job to the next to keep the lights on. When he died, the flow stopped. Marlene had looked at me, 29 years old and just getting promoted, with eyes that were so full of fear I couldn't say no. I paid for the funeral. Then I paid the mortgage for 3 months just until the insurance settles. Then I paid for Tyler's community college tuition, which he dropped out of. Then it was the car repairs, the dental work, the groceries. I became the backup plan, the safety net. And because I never let them hit the ground, they never learned how to fall. It is just, I said, tracing the rim of the cup. I always thought if I helped enough, eventually they would get on their feet. I thought I was investing in their independence. You weren't investing, Alina said bluntly. You were paying a subscription fee for their love. And yesterday, you canceled the subscription. That is why they are panicking. My phone buzzed on the table. I flinched. Check it, Alina said. Face the monster. I picked it up. It was a text from Aunt Linda. I am forwarding this to you because I think it is wrong. The text read, I am angry about dinner. Kennedy. But I don't agree with this. Attached was a screenshot. I tapped it to open. It was an image of a group chat. The name of the chat was Dinner Plan. I zoomed in. The messages were dated 3 days before the dinner. Tyler. We need to pick a place that is expensive, somewhere she cannot just offer to pay for the appetizers and bail. Marlene. The Gilded Lily? It is pricey, but if we order enough wine before the bill comes, she will feel too guilty to cause a scene. Tyler. Exactly. Make sure we get a booth in the back. Harder for her to leave if she is boxed in. Marlene. I will tell her it is a celebration for you. She is a sucker for supporting the family. LOL. Tyler. Perfect. I need this. Mom, the loan sharks are breathing down my neck. I stared at the screen. The noise of the coffee shop, the grinder, the indie folk music, the chatter, faded into a high-pitched ringing in my ears. Kennedy? Alina asked, her voice sharp. You are gone pale. What is it? I turned the phone around and showed her. Alina read it. Her eyes widened. Then, her lips pressed into a thin, dangerous line. That is not a family, she said softly. That is a cartel. I felt sick. Physically, violently sick. It wasn't just that they were using me. I had known that. On some level, it was the calculation, the LOL, the strategy of boxing me in. They had storyboarded my exploitation. They had written a script where I was the mark, and they were the grifters. And the last line, the loan sharks are breathing down my neck. This wasn't about a celebration. It was a liquidation event. They needed cash, and I was the asset they were liquidating. I took the phone back. My hands were not shaking anymore. The sadness was evaporating, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. What are you going to do? Alina asked. I opened my notes app. I'm going to start keeping score. I said, for the next 2 hours, with Alina's help. I went through everything. I scrolled back through 2 years of texts. I opened my banking app. I opened my Venmo history. July 14th, $400 to Tyler. For car battery. August 2nd, $250 to Mom. For groceries. September 10th, $200 to Mom. For property tax emergency. I took screenshots of everything. I created a folder on my phone simply labeled Evidence. I cross-referenced the dates with their texts. Half the time, the emergencies coincided with weekends away or new clothes I saw on social media. I wrote down the emotional tactics, phrases used, family sticks together, don't you love us? Your father would want this. We are all we have. It was a dossier of manipulation. Seeing it all laid out, chronological and quantified, stripped away the guilt. It wasn't help. It was a harvest. As I was saving a screenshot of a particularly aggressive demand from last Thanksgiving, a new text came in. It was Marlene. Kennedy. Please call. I am at urgent care. Chest pains. I think the stress is killing me. Alina read it over my shoulder. Do not go, she said. It is a trap. I know. I said, but if I ignore a medical emergency, I lose the moral high ground, and I need the high ground. I typed a reply. I am sorry to hear that. Send me the location. I will call the front desk and pay your copay directly over the phone. I can also call an Uber to take you home. The response was immediate. They don't take phone payments. I need cash. Can you just Zelle me $500? I need to get prescriptions too. Please, Kennedy. My heart hurts. I looked at Alina. $500 for a copay and generic heart meds? The copay at her urgent care is $40. I said. I know because I paid it last time she had chest pains, when her cable was about to be cut. I typed back, I will not send cash. I will drive there right now and pay the bill at the counter myself. See you in 20 minutes. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Never mind. Marlene texted, Tyler is coming. He cares. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. She isn't at urgent care, I said. Nope, Alina said. She is probably at bingo, or sitting in her living room trying to figure out how to pay the electric bill. The next day, Wednesday, Tyler called me during my lunch break. I debated ignoring it, but the line about loan sharks from the screenshot was gnawing at me. I needed to know how deep the water was. I answered, Hello, Tyler. Hey, Ken, he said. His voice was completely different from the texts. It was smooth, conciliatory, the voice he used when he was trying to charm a waitress or sell a landscape job. Look, I wanted to apologize. Things got heated the other night. We were all just stressed. I didn't say anything. I let the silence stretch. Tyler cleared his throat. Mom is really upset. Ken, she hasn't stopped crying. I just think, look, we are family. We fight. We make up. That is what we do. What do you want? Tyler? I asked. I just want to smooth things over. I hate this tension. It is bad for everyone. It is only bad for you because you need something. I said. Tyler sighed. Look, honestly, it is not just about dinner. That was stupid. But I am in a bit of a jam with the business. Cash flow issue. Vendor screwed me. If I don't come up with $5,000 by Friday, things are going to get ugly. $5,000. I repeated. Yeah. And I know you have it. You are sitting on that savings account like a dragon. Just a loan. Ken, I swear, I will sign a paper. I thought about the screenshot. The loan sharks. Who do you owe? Tyler? I asked. Is it a bank? Or is it someone who breaks kneecaps? Tyler's tone shifted instantly. The charm evaporated. Who I owe is none of your business. My business is that I am your brother, and you are going to help me. I am not going to help you. I said, I am done. Tyler, no more loans, no more dinners, no more bailouts. There was a pause, a cold, static-filled silence. You think you are so perfect, Tyler said, his voice low and venomous. You think you are untouchable in your little apartment, but you have secrets too. Kennedy, I don't have secrets. Tyler, I am the most boring person you know. We will see, he said. If you don't help me, I am going to tell everyone what you are really like. I will make sure everyone knows you abandoned your dying mother and your struggling brother. You won't have a friend left in this town. He hung up. I stared at the phone. It was a threat, clumsy and desperate, but it chilled me. Briar Glen was a small city. Reputation mattered. My email pinged. I looked at the notification. It was from an address I didn't recognize. Events, Briar Glen Family, org. The subject line was, Sponsorship Opportunity, the Stewart Family Table. I opened it. Dear Kennedy, we are so excited for our annual community gala next month. Your cousin-in-law, Dave, mentioned that you would be interested in sponsoring a gold-level table for the Stewart family. It is a wonderful way to give back and show the community how strong your family bond is. The gold sponsorship is $2,500. We have already listed your name in the preliminary program as a donor. Please click the link below to finalize payment. Warmly, Susan Miller, Briar Glen Family Services Association. I closed my eyes. It was a pincer movement. Tyler attacking from the shadows with threats, and the extended family attacking in the light with public pressure. They had already listed my name. If I didn't pay, I would have to call and demand they remove it, making me look like a miser who reneged on a charitable donation. They were weaponizing my own desire for respectability against me. I sat there for a long time. The office hummed around me. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, the sound of normal people living normal lives where their mothers didn't fake heart attacks and their brothers didn't try to extort them. I opened a new text message window. I added Marlene, Tyler, Aunt Linda, Uncle Mike, and the cousins to the recipient list. I typed, I am writing this to be clear. I will no longer pay for group expenses. I will not send cash for unverified emergencies. I will not sponsor tables, events, or vacations. If you have a bill that needs paying, send me the official invoice from the provider, and I will consider paying it directly to them. Those are my terms. If you cannot respect them, do not contact me. My thumb hovered over the send button. I felt a physical ache in my chest, a deep, hollow throb. It wasn't guilt anymore. It was grief. I was grieving the family I wanted. I was grieving the fantasy that if I just paid enough, if I was just good enough, they would love me for me, and not for what I could provide. I was grieving the loss of the illusion. Sending this text was not just drawing a line, it was burning a bridge, and I was standing on the far side, alone. I took a deep breath. I pressed send. The text message sat in the input field of my phone for a long time before I finally pressed send. It was a simple block of gray pixels, but it felt like I was detonating a bridge while I was still standing on it. I am writing this to be clear. I will no longer pay for group expenses. I will not send cash for unverified emergencies. I will not sponsor tables, events, or vacations. If you have a bill that needs paying, send me the official invoice from the provider, and I will consider paying it directly to them. Those are my terms. If you cannot respect them, do not contact me. I pressed the blue arrow. The message bubbled up into the group chat, sitting stark and lonely below a previous stream of emojis and guilt trips. I put the phone face down on my coffee table and waited. The silence lasted exactly 45 seconds. Then, the vibration began. It was a continuous, angry hum against the wood of the table. I did not look at the screen immediately. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My hands trembling slightly. I told myself this was necessary. I told myself that boundaries were healthy, but my body reacted as if I were in physical danger. When I finally picked up the phone, the notifications were stacking up like debris in a storm. After all we have done for you, Aunt Linda wrote, "This is how you repay family?" With a legal disclaimer, "You think you are better than us." My cousin Sarah added, "Just because you got a degree and moved downtown. You forgot where you came from." Then came Tyler. "Wow, just wow. You are cutting us off? We are not a business. Kennedy, we are your blood. You are acting like a stranger." Marlene's response was the only one that did not sound angry. It sounded like a performance of devastation. "I failed," she wrote. "I failed to raise a daughter who understands loyalty. Your father is watching this. Kennedy, he is watching you turn your back on the people he loved most." I stared at the words. Your father is watching. It was their favorite weapon, a spectral sniper rifle they used whenever logic failed them. They knew I loved him, they knew I missed him, and they knew that invoking his name was the quickest way to make me feel small and selfish. But this time, the guilt hit a wall. It hit the wall of the $65. It hit the wall of the planned ambush at the Gilded Lily. I did not reply. I muted the conversation, set my phone to Do Not Disturb, and sat in my living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. I felt lonely, yes, but for the first time in years, I did not feel the crushing weight of an impending transaction. 2 days later, on a Thursday evening, the buzzer to my apartment rang. I was not expecting anyone. I checked the video monitor. Marlene was standing in the vestibule, looking up at the camera. She was wearing her old beige trench coat, the one she had worn for a decade, and she was clutching a brown paper grocery bag against her chest. She looked small. She looked tired. I debated not buzzing her in, but the conditioning was deep. She was my mother. She was standing in the cold. I pressed the button. When I opened my apartment door, she was already there, breathless from the stairs. She did not yell. She did not scold. She just held out the bag. "I made chili," she said softly. "I know it is your favorite. I had extra." I looked at the bag. The grease stains at the bottom told me it was real. It was a peace offering, or a Trojan horse. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. Marlene walked in and looked around my apartment. It was a modest one-bedroom, but it was clean and organized. She always looked at my furniture with a mix of pride and resentment, as if my matching throw pillows were a personal insult to her mismatched life. She set the bag on the kitchen counter. "I just wanted to see you," she said, unbuttoning her coat. "I hate fighting. Kennedy, it makes me physically ill. I hate fighting too." "Mom," I said, leaning against the island, keeping distance between us. "But I meant what I said in the text." I know, she said, waving a hand dismissively. "You are making a point. You are asserting yourself. I get it. You are a modern woman." She sat down on one of my bar stools, slumping slightly. "But Kennedy," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "we need to put the politics aside for a minute. This is real. Tyler is in trouble." I felt my jaw tighten. There it was. The chili was the ticket price for the conversation. "What kind of trouble?" I asked. "Real trouble," she said, not like before. "This is not about a car payment or a credit card. It is dangerous. Kennedy." She looked up at me, and her eyes were rimmed with red. "He is in over his head with this Northbridge Outdoor Concepts thing," she said. "He borrowed money to buy equipment, heavy machinery, trucks. He thought the contracts were signed, but they fell through. Now the lenders are calling." I kept my face impassive. "Which lenders?" She looked away. "It is complicated, but they are calling me. Kennedy, they are calling my house phone at 3 a.m. "Why are they calling you?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Marlene picked at a loose thread on her coat. "I co-signed," she whispered. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. She had co-signed for a business that existed mostly in Tyler's imagination and on a stack of Vistaprint business cards. "What did you co-sign? Mom? A loan? A lease? A financing agreement?" she said. "For the equipment. It is a lot. Kennedy, and they say if we do not make a payment by Monday, they are going to default the whole thing. They are going to take my house. They are going to garnish my Social Security." She looked up at me, tears spilling over her lashes. "I cannot lose the house. Kennedy, it is all I have left of your father. The trap was perfect. The threat was existential. If I did not help, I wasn't just refusing to buy dinner. I was evicting my widowed mother." "How much is the payment?" I asked. $4,000, she said quickly. "Just to get them to back off. Just to quiet everything down so Tyler can sell the equipment and pay it off properly. $4,000. It was a specific number. It was also a manageable number for me. Technically. I had it in savings. "Okay," I said. Marlene let out a sob of relief. "Oh, thank God. Thank you. Honey, I knew you would not let me drown." I held up a hand. I said, "Okay. I will look at it. Show me the paperwork." Marlene froze. The relief vanished, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "What paperwork?" "The financing agreement." I said. "The default notice. The letters from the lender. If they are threatening to take the house, there must be certified mail. There must be documents." Marlene shifted on the stool. "It is at home. It is in a pile. I do not understand half of it. It is all legalese. That is fine," I said. "I deal with contracts all day. Go home, get the papers, and bring them to me, or take pictures of them and email them to me. Once I verify the debt and the lender, I will call them directly and make the payment." Marlene stood up. Her movements were sharp now. "Why do you have to make this so difficult?" she snapped. "Why can you not just write me a check, or transfer it? The bank closes at 5 tomorrow. We do not have time for you to play lawyer." "We have time," I said calmly. "If the deadline is Monday, we have all day Friday." "It is too complicated," she cried, her voice rising. "Tyler has the papers. He is embarrassed. He does not want his little sister auditing him. He just needs help. If he is too embarrassed to show me the bill, he is too embarrassed to take my money." I said, "Kennedy, please, just transfer the money. For me. To quiet everything down." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had raised me, who had sat by my bed when I had the flu, who had taught me to tie my shoes, and I saw a stranger. I saw a woman who was so consumed by the need to enable her son that she was willing to rob her daughter. "No," I said. Marlene stared at me. Her face went slack with shock. "What?" "No," I repeated. "No papers, no payment. That was the rule in the text. I am sticking to it." "You are going to let them take my house?" she whispered. "I do not believe they are going to take your house, Mom, because I do not believe this debt exists in the way you are saying it does. If it did, you would show me the proof." Marlene grabbed the grocery bag off the counter. She clutched it so hard the paper crinkled violently. "You are cold," she spat. "You are an icebox. I hope you enjoy your money. Kennedy, it is the only thing that will ever love you back." She turned and walked out. She slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. I stood in the silence of my kitchen. The smell of chili lingered in the air. Rich and spicy. A scent that used to mean safety. Now, it just smelled like a bribe. I did not sleep that night. I sat at my computer. Marlene's visit had triggered something in me. A need to know the full extent of the damage. If she was asking for $4,000 so casually, what else had I missed? I logged into my bank account. I went to the search function. I typed in the keyword. Transfer. I filtered the results for the last 2 years. The screen populated with a long list of transactions. Transfer to Marlene Stewart, $200. Transfer to Tyler Stewart, $150. Transfer to Marlene Stewart, $50. Transfer to Tyler Stewart, $300. They were small amounts. That was how they got me. They never asked for $10,000 at once. They asked for $50 for a prescription, $100 for a tire, $200 for a lapsed insurance policy. I opened a spreadsheet. I started typing date, recipient, stated reason, amount. It took me 3 hours. I went through checking, savings, and Venmo. June 12th. Mom. AC repair, $300. July 4th. Tyler. Party supplies, $150. August 15th. Mom. Unknown, $500. I remembered that August 1. She had called crying, saying she was short on the mortgage. I sent it without asking questions. I scrolled down, row after row. It was a drip feed of financial anemia. When I reached the bottom of the spreadsheet, I highlighted the amount column. I clicked the sum function. The number appeared in bold at the bottom of the screen. $22,450. I stared at the number. My hands went numb. My fingers felt like sausages, clumsy and cold. $22,000. That was a down payment on a house. That was a new car. That was a year of travel. That was my life. Siphoned off in $20 and $50 increments. Fed into the black hole of my family's incompetence. I felt a wave of nausea. I pushed my chair back from the desk and put my head between my knees. I had been paying a tax for being related to them, a tax I never voted for. I sat up, breathing heavily. I needed to check everything. If I had given them that much voluntarily, what had they taken involuntarily? I logged into a free credit monitoring site. I usually checked it once a year, but I had been negligent lately. My score appeared on the dashboard, 680. I frowned. That was wrong. My score was usually in the high 700s. I paid every bill on time. I had low utilization. I clicked on credit report. I scrolled past my student loans, past my car payment, past my credit card. I stopped at the section labeled Hard Inquiries. There, dated 3 weeks ago, was a name I did not recognize. Lakeshore Meridian Finance. I clicked on it. It was an inquiry for an unsecured personal loan. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I had not applied for a loan. I had not bought a car. I had not authorized anyone to check my credit. I looked at the date. It was 2 days before the dinner at the Gilded Lily. 2 days before Tyler claimed his business was exploding. 2 days before Marlene tried to guilt me into paying the tab. They had tried to get a loan in my name. I grabbed my phone. It was almost midnight. I did not care. I dialed Tyler. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice groggy. "Hello? Did you use my social security number?" I asked. My voice was low, shaking with a rage so pure it felt like clarity. "What? Kennedy? It is midnight. Did you apply for a loan with Lakeshore Meridian Finance using my name? There was a pause, a beat of silence that lasted too long. I do not know what you are talking about, Tyler said. His voice was awake now. Alert. There is a hard inquiry on my credit report. Tyler, dated 3 weeks ago, from a lender I have never heard of. Did you do it? You are being paranoid. He scoffed. Why would I do that? I have my own credit. Your credit is garbage. Tyler, and Mom just told me you are drowning in debt for your fake landscaping company. Did you try to take out a loan in my name to cover your tracks? You are crazy, he said. You are actually losing it. This obsession with money is rotting your brain. Maybe you clicked on a spam link. Maybe you got hacked. Do not pin your paranoia on me. I am looking at the report. Tyler, look, if you are so worried, give me your social security number, he said. I froze. What? Read me your social security number, he said, his voice casual, helpful. I will run it through my business software. I have a buddy who does background checks. I can prove to you it wasn't me. I just need the number to verify the file. The audacity of it took my breath away. He was accused of identity theft, and his defense was to ask for the keys to the vault. I'm not giving you my number, I whispered. Then you are on your own. He snapped. Stop harassing me. Go count your money. Scrooge. He hung up. I sat in the dark, the phone still pressed to my ear. He had done it. I knew he had done it, and he thought I was stupid enough to hand him the weapon to finish the job. The next morning, I called in sick to work. It was the first sick day I had taken in 3 years. I had an appointment at 10 o'clock with Dana Whitlock, a consumer protection attorney Alina had recommended. Dana's office was in a glass building on the other side of town. It was sterile and white, smelling of lemon polish and expensive paper. Dana was a woman in her 50s with sharp glasses and a handshake that could crush walnuts. She listened as I laid it all out. The dinner, the texts, the $22,000 in transfers, the inquiry from Lakeshore Meridian. I showed her the spreadsheet. I showed her the screenshot of the credit report. Dana looked at the papers for a long time. Then she took off her glasses and looked at me. Kennedy, she said, her voice professional but kind. This is financial abuse. Hearing the words spoken aloud by a stranger made them real. It wasn't just family drama. It wasn't just a squabble. It was abuse. But the inquiry. I said, he didn't get the loan. It was just an inquiry. Is that a crime? Attempted fraud is still fraud, she said, but proving it is difficult without a confession. However, the intent is clear. They are escalating. They view you as a resource, not a person, and when you cut off the voluntary supply, they tried to access the involuntary supply. She leaned forward. Here is what you are going to do. First, you are going to freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus. Today, right now. That locks the door. Nobody opens a new account without a PIN that only you know. I nodded, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. Second, she continued, you are going to change every password you have. Email, banking, social media. If your mother knows your childhood pet or your mother's maiden name, change your security questions. Assume they know everything. Third, she said, tapping the spreadsheet, you are going to stop engaging verbally. No more phone calls. No more visits. If they want to speak to you, it must be in writing. You need a paper trail for everything from this moment forward. Is that enough? I asked. For now, she said. But Kennedy, you need to be prepared. When you lock the doors, they are going to bang on them harder. They are going to get desperate. And desperate people do dangerous things. I left her office feeling lighter, but also terrified. I had a battle plan, but I was at war with my own blood. I spent the afternoon at a coffee shop, working through Dana's list. I logged into Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I clicked the buttons to freeze my files. I set pins that were random strings of numbers. Nothing to do with birthdays or anniversaries. I went through my bank accounts. I changed my passwords to phrases that were nonsense. Purple elephant swimming Tuesday. Coffee mug flying sideways. I removed Marlene as a beneficiary on my life insurance policy. That one hurt. I stared at the screen for a full minute before clicking delete. I replaced her name with a charity that supports literacy. Finally, at 4 o'clock, I opened my email. I drafted a message to Marlene. Subject: Financial Boundaries and Communication. Following recent events, I'm making some changes to protect my financial security. I have frozen my credit files and updated my security protocols. Regarding Tyler's debt or any other family financial issues, I will not contribute any funds without full, original documentation from the creditor, verified by me directly. I will not discuss money in person or over the phone. Any request for financial assistance must be sent to this email address with attachments. I am taking a step back to focus on my own stability. I hope you can respect that. Kennedy, I sent it. I drove home, watching the sun set over Briar Glen. The city looked different to me now. It wasn't just my hometown. It was a grid of potential threats, a place where the people who were supposed to protect me were the ones hunting me. I parked my car and walked up to my apartment. I felt exhausted, hollowed out. My phone chimed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was an email notification. Marlene had replied. I stood in the hallway, keys in hand, and opened the message. There was no subject line. There was no salutation. Just one sentence. If you won't help willingly, we'll do what we have to do. I stared at the words. They were vague enough to be deniable, but specific enough to be terrifying. What we have to do. It wasn't a plea anymore. It was a declaration of war. I went inside, locked the deadbolt, and engaged the chain. Then, for the first time in 5 years, I dragged a chair under the doorknob. I was safe inside, but I knew, with a sickening certainty, that they were just getting started. Monday morning began with a deceptive sense of normalcy. I had my coffee, I had my prioritized task list, and I had the comforting, sterile hum of the office ventilation system. After the chaos of the last week, the frozen credit, the changed passwords, the severance of communication with my mother, I felt like I was finally barricaded inside a fortress of my own making. But I had forgotten that fortresses have windows. At 10:30 in the morning, a notification popped up in the corner of my monitor. It was an email. The sender was an external address, something generic like accounts@northbridgeconcepts.com, but the display name was clearly Tyler Stewart. The subject line made my blood run cold. Invoice 4402, overdue, ATTN, financial contact, Kennedy Stewart. I froze, my hand hovering over the mouse. He had sent it to my work email, my corporate address, the one listed on my LinkedIn profile, visible to anyone who knew where I worked. I opened it, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The body of the email was written in a tone that mimicked professional correspondence, but failed miserably in its execution. To whom it may concern. Please find attached the outstanding invoice for materials related to the startup capital for Northbridge Outdoor Concepts. As the guarantor and primary financial contact for the business, Ms. Kennedy Stewart is responsible for the immediate settlement of this balance. Please process payment to the account listed below to avoid legal escalation. Sincerely, Tyler Stewart, CEO. Northbridge. Outdoor Concepts attached was a PDF that looked like it had been made in Microsoft Word by a child. It listed landscaping materials for $5,000. He was trying to humiliate me into paying. He was betting that the fear of professional embarrassment would force me to open my wallet just to make it go away. He was gambling that I would panic, reply, and cut a check to keep my employer from seeing this. But he had made a critical error. He had underestimated how much I valued my job, and he had underestimated my willingness to expose him to save it. I did not reply. I did not delete it. I printed it. I walked down the hallway to the corner office. My manager, David, was on a call, but he saw my face, pale, set in stone, and waved me in. He ended his call. "Kennedy?" he asked, frowning. "Is everything all right?" I closed the door behind me. I sat down. I placed the printed email on his desk. "David," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands, "I need to make you aware of a situation involving my family. I am currently being targeted by a harassment campaign from my brother and mother regarding a financial dispute. David picked up the paper. He read it. His eyebrows shot up. Is this real? He asked. Are you a guarantor? No, I said firmly. I have never signed a document for this business. This is a fraudulent attempt to extort money by leveraging my professional reputation. I have already consulted with a consumer attorney and frozen my credit. I took a deep breath. I am showing you this because I want to be transparent. I am handling this legally. But I wanted you to know in case he tries to contact the main switchboard or escalate this further, I am mortified that it has reached this office. David looked at me for a long moment. He was a good man, fair but strictly corporate. He slid the paper back across the desk. I am sorry you are going through this. Kennedy, he said, it looks incredibly stressful. It is, I admitted. From a company standpoint, David said, leaning back, as long as this doesn't impact your performance or bring liability to the firm, it is a personal matter, however. He paused, his eyes serious. You need to lock this down. If he starts emailing vendors or clients, or if he shows up in the lobby, HR will have to get involved, and nobody wants that. You need to make sure your boundaries are tight. I understand, I said. It won't happen again. I walked back to my desk feeling a mix of relief and nausea. I had survived the immediate impact, but the violation lingered. Tyler had crossed the invisible line between my private hell and my public sanctuary. He had weaponized my career. I sat at my desk and added the email to my evidence folder. Then, I forwarded a copy to Dana Whitlock. 2 days later, on a Wednesday evening, Marlene called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, Kennedy, please, no money talk. We just want to clear the air. The family is falling apart. Aunt Sarah is hosting a reconciliation dinner at her place on Friday. Just come. Listen to us. If you leave after 10 minutes, fine. But give us 10 minutes. For your father. I stared at the screen. Reconciliation. It was a soft word. A warm word. It suggested that they wanted to apologize. But I knew better. Yet, a part of me, the part that still remembered Christmas mornings and birthday cakes, wanted to believe it. And another part of me, the strategic part, knew that if I refused, I would be the villain who wouldn't even listen to an apology. I texted back, I will come, but if the topic of money comes up, I am leaving immediately. Marlene replied instantly with a heart emoji. See you at 7. Friday night at Cousin Sarah's house felt less like a family gathering and more like a wake. Sarah lived in a split-level ranch in the suburbs of Briar Glen. When I pulled up, the driveway was full. Marlene's rusted sedan was there. Tyler's truck, a massive, lifted monstrosity he definitely couldn't afford, was parked on the lawn. I took a deep breath, checked that my phone was recording audio, a trick Dana had suggested, and slipped it into my blazer pocket. I walked in. The living room was crowded. Marlene, Tyler, Aunt Linda, Uncle Mike, Sarah, and her husband Dave were all seated in a circle. There was no food. There were no drinks. There was just a coffee table in the center, covered in papers. I stopped in the entryway. I thought this was dinner. I said, We ordered pizza, Sarah said nervously. Standing up, It is coming later. Come sit. Ken, I walked to the only empty chair. A stiff wooden dining chair they had pulled into the circle. I sat down, keeping my purse on my lap. Marlene looked at me. Her eyes were puffy, but her jaw was set. Thank you for coming, she said. I nodded. You said you wanted to clear the air. We do, Tyler said. He was leaning forward, elbows on his knees, looking remarkably sober and serious. We want to talk about the future of this family. He gestured to the papers on the coffee table. I looked down. It was a spreadsheet. It was color-coded. What is this? I asked. This is the reality, Tyler said. He picked up a sheet and handed it to me. I took it. It was a list of debts. Northbridge loan, $15,000. Credit cards, $8,000. Back rent, $3,000. Truck payments, $4,000. I looked up. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because we are a unit, Aunt Linda said from the sofa. She was holding a tissue. Kennedy, look at those numbers. Tyler is drowning. Marlene is drowning, trying to save him. And? I asked, my voice cool. And you are the only one on dry land, Uncle Mike said, his voice gruff. Marlene leaned forward. Kennedy, we have been looking at the numbers. We did the math. You make a good salary. You have no children. You have a rent-controlled apartment. You have savings. So? I said, feeling the trap snap shut. So, Tyler said, his voice taking on a logical, persuasive tone. If you covered the Northbridge loan, just the $15,000, I could restructure the rest. I could breathe. And Mom wouldn't lose the house. I stared at him. This wasn't an apology. It was a presentation. They had held a strategy meeting to figure out how to extract my assets. You called this a reconciliation, I said. This is a shakedown. It is not a shakedown. Marlene cried. It is fairness. Kennedy, you benefit from the sacrifices this family made. Your father worked himself to death to put you through college. I worked 3 jobs in college. I said, and I'm still paying my student loans. But you can rebuild, Sarah chimed in, her voice pleading. Kennedy, you are young. You can make that money back in 6 months. Tyler doesn't have the same opportunities you had. He needs a runway. I looked around the room. They were all nodding. They had all bought into the narrative. In their minds, my solvency was a moral failing because I wasn't sharing it. They viewed my bank account as a community chest. I placed the paper back on the table. Let me ask you a question. I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. Why the gilded lily? Tyler blinked. What? If you were drowning in $30,000 of debt, I said, pointing to the spreadsheet. Why did you insist on going to the most expensive restaurant in town on Tuesday? Why did you order a $100 steak? Why did you order $300 of scotch? We were celebrating, Marlene said defensive. We wanted one nice night. You wanted me to pay for it. I said, you invited me there specifically to stick me with the bill. That is not true, Aunt Linda said. Who agreed I would pay? I asked, looking directly at her, before I even walked in the door. Did you all talk about it? Did you all agree? Kennedy will get the check? Silence. Uncle Mike looked at his shoes. Sarah bit her lip. And the credit inquiry. I continued, turning to Tyler. Lakeshore Meridian Finance. Why did you try to open a loan in my name 2 days before the dinner? I didn't, Tyler shouted, his face turning red. I told you, you are paranoid. I am not paranoid. I said, I have the report. You are obsessing over details because you don't want to help, Marlene yelled. You are looking for excuses to be selfish. It is not selfish to protect myself from theft. I said, Cousin Dave, Sarah's husband, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Look, Kennedy, nobody is saying what Tyler did was perfect, but the plan was just to get everyone on stable footing, even the trip to the lake house. That was supposed to be a bonding thing. I froze. What trip to the lake house? I asked. Sarah shot Dave a look that could have peeled paint. Shut up, Dave. No, I said. Tell me. What trip? Dave rubbed the back of his neck. The surprise trip. For Marlene's birthday next month, we booked that rental on the lake, the big one with the boat. And who is paying for it? I asked. Well, Dave mumbled. The deposit is down, but the balance. We figured since you were getting the promotion. I felt the room spin. They had booked a vacation I didn't know about, and they had already allocated my future earnings to pay for it. It wasn't just one dinner. It wasn't just one loan. It was a systematic targeting of my life. They viewed me as a resource to be mined until I was empty. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but my spine was steel. You people are incredible. I said, you sit here, in a circle, and judge me for not setting myself on fire to keep you warm. Kennedy, sit down. Uncle Mike barked. We are not done. I am done. I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened the evidence folder. I found the screenshot from the group chat. You talk about loyalty. I said, you talk about family. Let's talk about the dinner plan chat. I saw the color drain from Marlene's face. I began to read aloud. Tyler, we need to pick a place that is expensive, somewhere she cannot just offer to pay for the appetizers and bail. I looked up. Tyler was staring at me, his mouth open. Marlene, the Gilded Lily? It is pricey, but if we order enough wine before the bill comes, she will feel too guilty to cause a scene. The room erupted. You went through our phones? Sarah shrieked. That is a violation of privacy. You spied on us? Tyler yelled, standing up. You are a psycho. I continued reading, my voice rising over the noise. Tyler. Perfect. I need this. Mom, the loan sharks are breathing down my neck. I lowered the phone. I didn't spy on you. I said. Aunt Linda forwarded it to me. Every head in the room snapped toward Aunt Linda. She shrank back into the sofa, her face bright red. I didn't mean to, she stammered. I thought it was wrong. You traitor? Marlene screamed at her sister. You ruined everything. Enough, I shouted. The room went quiet. I looked at them. They looked ugly to me, not physically, but spiritually. They were a pack of wolves turning on each other because the prey had fought back. I am not paying your debts. Tyler, I said, I am not paying for your lake house. I am not paying for your steaks, and I am certainly not paying to be abused. Marlene stood up. She walked toward me. She stopped inches from my face. She was trembling. She played her final card, the one she had been saving. You promised him, she whispered. Her voice was wet and heavy. On the day your father died, you stood by his hospital bed. I heard you. You told him, I will take care of them. You promised him you would take care of Tyler. The memory hit me like a physical blow. I had said that. I was 29, terrified, watching my father fade away. I had whispered it into his ear. I will watch out for them. Don't worry. Marlene saw the hit land. She pressed the advantage. Are you going to break a promise to a dying man? Kennedy? She hissed. Are you going to look at his picture and tell him you let his son be destroyed because you wanted to keep your money? Tears pricked my eyes. It was a cruel, surgical strike. It twisted my love for my father into a shackle. I looked at Tyler. He was watching me with a smug, expectant look. He thought he had won. He thought the ghost of our father was the ultimate trump card. I took a deep breath. I imagined my father, the real man, the man who worked hard, who paid his bills, who taught me to be honest. I looked Marlene in the eye. I promised to take care of you, I said, my voice shaking. I kept that promise. I paid the mortgage. I bought the groceries. I fixed the cars. I gave you $22,000 in 2 years. I stepped back. But that promise, I said, my voice hardening, does not include fraud, and it certainly does not include letting my brother steal my identity. Dad would be ashamed of you. Mom, not me. The silence that followed was absolute. Marlene looked as if I had slapped her. I turned and walked to the door. Kennedy, Tyler shouted. If you walk out that door, you are dead to us. I didn't stop. I opened the door and walked out into the cool night air. I got into my car. I locked the doors. I drove away. I didn't cry. I felt a strange, vibrating numbness. It was the feeling of a limb being amputated. It hurts, but the gangrene is gone. When I got back to my apartment, it was 10 o'clock. I walked into the lobby. I checked my mailbox. There was a single envelope inside. It was thick. It was certified mail. The return address was Lakeshore Meridian Finance. My stomach dropped. I took the elevator up to my floor. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. I got inside, sat on the floor of my entryway, and tore the envelope open. It wasn't an inquiry notification. It was a notice of default and acceleration. Dear Ms. Stewart, this letter serves as formal notice that your loan account ending in 4092 is past due. The first payment of $655,000 was due on October 1st and has not been received. The total principal balance of $15,000 is now due immediately. I stared at the date. October 1st. That was 3 weeks ago. The loan hadn't just been applied for. It had been opened. I looked at the date of origination. September 15th. That was 2 weeks before I froze my credit. Tyler hadn't just tried. He had succeeded. He had forged my signature, used my social security number, and taken out a $15,000 loan in my name. He had likely used an old utility bill to verify the address. Or maybe he had just faked that too. This changed everything. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This wasn't harassment. This was a felony. He had sat in that circle tonight, looked me in the eye, and showed me a spreadsheet with a Northbridge loan listed on it. He had asked me to pay it. He was asking me to pay off the loan he had stolen my identity to get. The sheer sociopathy of it made me gasp for air. He wasn't drowning. He was a predator. I looked at the paper. $15,000. If I paid it, I would be admitting the debt was mine. I would be validating the fraud. If I didn't pay it, they would sue me. They would garnish my wages. My credit would be destroyed. There was only one way to make this go away. Only one way to clear my name. I had to prove it wasn't me. And the only way to prove it wasn't me was to prove who it was. I looked at the clock. 10:30. The police station was open 24 hours. I sat there for a long time. I thought about Marlene's face. I thought about Tyler's childhood laugh. I thought about the Christmas mornings. I realized then that they were already gone. The people I loved didn't exist. They had been replaced by desperate, hungry things that would consume me until there was nothing left. I stood up. I grabbed my purse. I grabbed the certified letter. I grabbed the printed email from work. I grabbed the spreadsheet of transfers. I walked out of my apartment. The drive to the precinct was a blur. The city lights smeared across my windshield like streaks of oil. I walked into the station. It smelled of floor wax and stale coffee, a smell that reminded me of the hospital where my father died. I approached the desk sergeant. He was a heavy-set man with kind eyes. "Can I help you?" "Miss?" he asked. I took a breath. It felt like inhaling glass. "I need to file a police report." I said, "What kind of report?" "Identity theft." I said, "And fraud." He nodded and pulled out a form. "Do you know who the suspect is?" I looked down at the counter. I closed my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "Name?" he asked. Pen hovering. I opened my eyes. "Tyler Stewart," I said. "My brother." The sergeant looked up at me. He paused. He saw the pain in my face. "Are you sure you want to do this, miss? Once it is in the system, it is out of your hands. The DA picks it up. It becomes a criminal matter." I thought about the gilded lily. I thought about the text messages. I thought about the promise to my father. I will take care of them. The only way to take care of Tyler now was to stop him. "I am sure," I said. He began to write. I watched the ink flow onto the paper. Every letter was a shovel of dirt on the grave of my family. When it was done, he handed me a small slip of paper with a number on it, Report 25-994. I walked out of the station holding the slip of paper like it was a grenade. I sat in my car in the parking lot and stared at the number. It was done. I had protected myself. I had saved my financial future. But as I put the car in reverse, tears finally came, hot, scalding tears that burned my cheeks. I had paid my share, but the cost was higher than I ever imagined. The reaction to the police report was not a ripple. It was a shockwave. I had expected anger. I had expected the usual barrage of guilt-tripping texts and tearful voicemails, but I was not prepared for the sheer, unadulterated violence of the response when the reality of the law collided with the fantasy world my family inhabited. It started 48 hours after I left the precinct. I was at work, sitting in a budget meeting for the upcoming fiscal quarter, when my personal phone began to light up. It did not just buzz. It danced across the table, a frantic, epileptic spasm of notifications. I silenced it and flipped it over. 10 minutes later, the receptionist, a sweet girl named Chloe, knocked on the glass door of the conference room. She looked pale. "Kennedy?" she whispered, leaning in. "I am so sorry to interrupt, but there is a man on line 1 who says it is a family emergency. He is screaming. Kennedy. I can hear him through the handset." My stomach dropped through the floor. I looked at David. My manager. He gave me a curt nod. I excused myself and walked to my desk. I picked up the receiver. "Hello? You ruined my life," Tyler screamed. The sound was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "You actually did it. You actually called the cops on your own brother." "Are you insane? Are you sick? I am not the one who committed a felony." "Tyler," I said, my voice low and shaking. "It was a placeholder," he roared. "It was a bridge loan. I was going to pay it off before the first statement even hit. I had a check coming in. You defaulted." "Tyler," I said, "you missed the first payment. You never had a check coming in. You stole my name because your credit is trash, and you needed $15,000. I needed time," he yelled. "And now? Now I have a detective leaving cards at my apartment. I have my landlord asking questions. Ashley is freaking out. You burned it all down." "Kennedy, over money." "I burned it down over trust." I said, "Retract it," he hissed. His voice dropped to a menacing growl. "Call them right now. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them you gave me permission and you forgot. Fix this, Kennedy, or I swear to God." "Or what?" I asked. "You will steal my identity again?" The line went dead. I sat there, gripping the receiver until my knuckles turned white. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. It wasn't just the anger, it was the entitlement. He truly believed that his need for money superseded my right to exist as a separate legal entity. To him, I was just an extension of his wallet, and by closing it, I had committed the betrayal. Then came Marlene. She didn't scream. She wept. She left a voicemail that was 5 minutes of ragged breathing and disjointed sentences. "How could you? Families handle this privately. We don't bring strangers into our house. We don't bring the law into our business. Your father—" Oh God. "Kennedy, your father would die of shame if he saw his son in handcuffs. You have to stop this. You are the only one who can stop this." I didn't call her back. Instead, I called Dana Whitlock. I sat in my car during my lunch break, the engine running to keep the heater on, listening to Dana's crisp, professional voice on the Bluetooth speaker. "Do not retract it," Dana said. Her tone was absolute. "Kennedy, listen to me very carefully. If you retract that report, if you tell the police it was a misunderstanding, you are effectively admitting that the debt is valid." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means you become liable for the $15,000, she said. "And worse, you could be charged with filing a false police report. You would be trading his felony for your own criminal record and a 5-figure debt." I closed my eyes, leaning my head against the steering wheel. "He says I ruined his life," I whispered. "He ruined his own life when he picked up a pen and forged your signature." Dana said, "You are just the witness to the wreckage. Stay the course, Kennedy. Cooperate with the detective. Send the lender the affidavit. Do not engage with your family." So I did. The interview with the detective took place on a rainy Tuesday morning. Detective Miller was a man who looked like he had seen every possible variation of human disappointment. He met me at a coffee shop near the station, buying a black coffee and opening a small notebook. I handed him the folder. It was my masterpiece of documentation. It contained the credit report showing the inquiry from Lakeshore Meridian. It contained the certified letter of default. It contained the dinner plan group chat screenshots. It contained the spreadsheet of the $22,000 I had voluntarily transferred over the years. "I want you to see the pattern," I told him, pointing to the spreadsheet. This wasn't a one-time desperation move. This was an escalation. They bled me dry slowly, and when I cut off the tap, they tried to drill a new hole. Detective Miller flipped through the pages. He paused at the text message from Tyler. "The loan sharks are breathing down my neck." "He owes money to people who aren't banks?" Miller asked, looking up. "I think so," I said. "That is what he said in the chat, and that is why he was so desperate for the $15,000. Miller nodded slowly. He tapped the paper. "This is good. Ms. Stewart, it establishes motive. It establishes timeline. Most family fraud cases are messy. It is usually he said, she said. This is clear." "What happens next?" I asked. "We investigate," he said. We subpoena the loan documents from Lakeshore Meridian. We check the IP address where the application was submitted. If it matches his home or his phone, well, then the district attorney gets involved. He closed the notebook. I have to warn you, he said, his voice softer now. It is going to get ugly. Family cases always do. They are going to try to get you to drop it. They are going to use every emotional lever they have. They already are. I said. Miller looked at me with a sad kind of respect. Keep your head down, Ms. Stewart, and keep your credit frozen. The following week, the strategy shifted. The screaming stopped. The weeping stopped. Marlene sent me a text on a Thursday evening. Kennedy, I am sorry. I stared at the screen. It was the first time she had typed those words in my entire life without following them with a but. I waited. The typing bubbles appeared. I am sorry for how this all looked. I know we pushed you. I know the dinner was too much. We were just so stressed. Tyler is sick with worry. He isn't sleeping. He isn't eating. He knows he made a mistake. There it was. Mistake. Not crime. Not theft. Mistake. We want to fix this. She continued. We can sell Tyler's truck. Aunt Linda says she can loan us $2,000. If we pool our resources, we can pay off the loan in installments. But we can't do that if he is in jail. Please, honey, just meet us. Let's work out a payment plan. You withdraw the report, and we handle the debt internally. We promise. It was a conditional apology. It was a transaction disguised as contrition. She was sorry because the consequences were arriving, not because the action was wrong. I typed back a single sentence. I will not meet. I will not discuss the debt. Talk to the detective. I blocked her number for the rest of the night, but the emotional blow I was bracing for didn't come from Marlene. It came from the one person I thought was innocent in all of this, my grandmother, Loretta. Loretta was 82. She lived in a small assisted living facility on the south side of Briar Glen. She was the only person in the family who never asked me for money. She sent me $5 checks and birthday cards written in shaky cursive. She called me on a Sunday afternoon. Kennedy? Her voice was thin, crackling over the line. Hi, Grandma? I said, forcing a cheerfulness I did not feel. How are you? I am confused. Honey, she said, Marlene was here yesterday. She was crying something awful. I tightened my grip on the phone. What did she say? She said. Loretta hesitated. She said you were trying to put Tyler in prison. She said you got confused about a loan you co-signed for him. I felt the blood drain from my face. She told you I co-signed it? I asked. She said you offered to help him. Loretta said. She said you were so proud of his new business that you offered to back him. And now, she says you changed your mind and you are calling it fraud to get out of the debt. The lie was so breathtaking, so perfectly constructed to destroy my credibility, that I almost admired it. Marlene wasn't just defending Tyler. She was rewriting history to make me the villain. She was poisoning the well with the matriarch. Grandma, I said, my voice trembling. That is not true. I never offered. I never signed anything. Tyler used my social security number without asking me. He pretended to be me. There was a long silence on the other end. Oh, Loretta breathed. It was a sound of pure, heavy disappointment. He stole from me, Grandma, I said, and now they want me to lie to the police to cover it up. I heard a soft sniffle. Kennedy, Loretta said, about 6 months ago. Tyler came to visit me. He brought me flowers. That is nice, I said cautiously. He asked me about my old paperwork. She continued. He said he needed to help me organize my files. He took my box of tax returns. He said he was going to digitize them for me. My stomach turned over. Did he bring them back? I asked. No, she said. I haven't seen them since. And, well, I have been getting a lot of mail lately, from credit card companies. I just thought it was junk mail. I throw it away. I close my eyes. Grandma, I said gently, do not throw any more mail away. Keep it all. I'm going to come over tomorrow and pick it up. Okay? Okay, she whispered. Kennedy? Yes? I am sorry I believed her, she said. I I wanted to believe he was good. We all did. I said, the conversation with Loretta changed everything. It wasn't just about me anymore. If he had targeted Loretta, a woman on a fixed income, a woman who trusted him implicitly, then he was not just a desperate brother. He was a predator, and Marlene was his accomplice. She was spinning a web of lies to every relative, tailoring the narrative to recruit them to her side. To Aunt Linda, I was the stingy rich girl. To Loretta, I was the confused, fickle sister who reneged on a promise. I realized then that I could not stay silent. Silence was what allowed Marlene to control the story. I went to my computer, I opened the folder of evidence, I drafted a generic email. Dear family, there are many stories circulating about the current situation between myself, Tyler, and Marlene. I am not asking you to take sides. I am simply providing the documentation so you can decide for yourself. Attached is the police report filed for identity theft regarding a $15,000 loan taken out in my name without my consent. Attached is the timeline of the fraud. I am also attaching a warning. If Tyler has asked for your personal information or borrowed documents for paperwork, please check your credit report immediately. Kennedy. I attached the PDFs. I sent it to everyone, cousins, aunts, uncles. I sat back and waited for the fallout. It was quiet at first. Then, the responses started trickling in. Not in the group chat, that had gone dead silent, but in private texts. My cousin Ben texted, "Holy cow, I didn't know it was 15 grand. I thought it was a couple $100. Aunt Linda texted, "I am praying for everyone." A non-response, but a retreat from her previous hostility. Then, a text from my cousin Sarah. "Kennedy, can you call me?" I called her. "He got me too," Sarah said. Her voice was flat. "What?" I asked. "Last year?" She said, "He told me he needed a cosigner for a truck lease. He said his credit was just a few points shy." I said no. But I filled out the application just to see if I would qualify. I gave him the paper. I never signed the lease. And I just checked my report. She said, "There is a credit card opened in my name 6 months ago. It has a balance of $3,000. I felt a surge of validation mixed with horror. "Report it." "Sarah," I said, "you have to report it." "I can't," she whispered. "He is family. He is stealing from you." I said, "He is stealing from his own grandmother." "Sarah, he took Loretta's tax returns." Sarah gasped. "No, yes, if you don't report it, you are helping him do it to someone else." The cracks in the family facade were widening. Marlene's narrative was crumbling under the weight of the receipts. She could lie about my motives, but she couldn't explain away 3 different credit reports. The next day, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. "It is Ashley. Do not reply to this. Just read it. Ashley, Tyler's girlfriend." The gum-chewing, eye-rolling observer from the Gilded Lily. He is losing it. Ken. He is drinking a bottle a night. He has stacks of mail in his trunk that he won't let me see. I think some of it is yours. I think some of it is his mom's. I stared at the screen. Mail theft. Another federal crime. He is practicing speeches. Ashley wrote, "He walks around the apartment rehearsing what he is going to say to people. He is trying to memorize a story about how you had a mental break after your dad died, and you have been unstable with money ever since. He wants to paint you as the crazy one, so the cops won't believe you." My blood ran cold. It was gaslighting on an industrial scale. "And one more thing," she added. "He bought a ring, a big one. He's going to propose to me at the engagement party next month. He put it on a credit card. I saw the receipt. It was $8,000. $8,000, while he was being investigated for fraud. While he owed $15,000 in my name. "Why are you telling me this?" I typed back. "Breaking her rule." "Because," she replied. "The card he used to buy the ring?" The name on the receipt was Marlene Stewart. He was cannibalizing his own mother now, and she was letting him, or maybe she didn't know. 2 days later, I received a formal notice from Lakeshore Meridian. They were pausing the collection activity pending the investigation, but they requested a mediation session. It was a voluntary step, a chance to clarify the facts before they formally discharged the debt as fraud or pursued legal action. My lawyer, Dana, advised me to go. It is a chance to put him on the record. She said, if he lies in mediation, it is more evidence. The mediation was held in a neutral conference room in a downtown office building. It was sterile, gray, and freezing cold. I arrived early with Dana. We sat on one side of the long mahogany table. I had my folder. I had my silence. Tyler arrived 10 minutes late. He was wearing a suit that didn't fit him, the same one from the dinner. He looked haggard. His eyes were bloodshot, and there was a nervous, twitchy energy to his movements. He didn't look at me. He didn't bring a lawyer. He brought Marlene. She walked in, head high, clutching her purse like a shield. She looked at me with a mix of pity and disdain, as if I were a wayward child who had made a mess on the carpet. The mediator, a retired judge named Mr. Henderson, opened the file. We are here to discuss the outstanding balance of $15,000 on the account of Kennedy Stewart. He said, Ms. Stewart alleges this account was opened fraudulently by Mr. Tyler Stewart. Mr. Stewart, you have claimed in previous phone correspondence that this was a misunderstanding. Would you like to elaborate? Tyler cleared his throat. He put on his best smile, the charming, boyish grin that had gotten him out of trouble his whole life. Yes, Your Honor, he said. I mean, Mr. Henderson, look, this is all just a big mix-up. Kennedy and I, we are close. We talk about business all the time. He glanced at me, his eyes pleading for me to play along. We discussed the loan. He continued. We talked about it over dinner. She said she wanted to help. She gave me her info. I filled out the forms because she was busy with work. Maybe she forgot. She has been under a lot of stress lately. Marlene nodded vigorously. She has been very emotional. She added, since her father passed, she gets confused. Mr. Henderson looked at me. Ms. Stewart? I didn't smile. I didn't get angry. I just opened my folder. I slid a piece of paper across the table. This is a copy of my credit freeze confirmation, dated September 28th. I said, this is the police report, dated October 20th. And this? I slid a third paper across. This is a text message from Tyler dated 2 days after the loan was opened. It asks, can you lend me $50 for gas? I looked at Tyler. If I had just agreed to give you $15,000, Tyler, why would you need to beg me for $50 for gas? And why would I give you my social security number for a loan, but refuse to buy you a tank of fuel? Tyler's smile faltered. Well, the funds hadn't cleared yet. He stammered. I slid another paper. This is the IP address log from the application, provided by the lender. I said, it matches the IP address of Tyler's home router. The email address used on the application is kennedystewart88@gmail.com. My email is kastewart@logistics.com. I have never owned that Gmail account. I looked at the mediator. This wasn't a misunderstanding. I said, he created a fake email. He used my information. He forged my digital signature, and he did it because he knew I would never say yes. Marlene slammed her hand on the table. Stop it, she cried. Stop attacking him. He is your brother. He is a criminal. Mom, I said calmly. Tyler stood up. His chair scraped violently against the floor. You are enjoying this, aren't you? He spat. You love seeing me squirm. You think you are so superior with your receipts and your lawyer. I am not enjoying this. Tyler, I said, I am humiliated. I am humiliated that I have to sit in a room with strangers and prove that my own family is trying to rob me. Mr. Henderson raised a hand. Mr. Stewart, sit down. Tyler didn't sit. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You are going to regret this. Kennedy, you think you can just walk away? You think you can ruin my reputation in this town? I have friends. I have people who know the truth. The truth is on the table, I said, pointing to the documents. Tyler glared at me. Then he turned and stormed out of the room. Marlene lingered for a moment. She looked at the papers scattered on the table. She looked at me. For a second, I saw fear in her eyes. Real, naked fear. She realized that the charm wasn't working. The family business defense held no water in a room governed by laws. "I hope it is worth it," she whispered. Then she followed her son. Mr. Henderson sighed. He closed his folder. "I will be recommending that the lender discharge the debt as fraud," he said. "They will likely pursue criminal charges independently." "Thank you," I said. I walked out of the building with Dana. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the pavement. "It is going to happen," Dana said. "The DA will pick this up. He is going to be arrested." "I know," I said. "And Kennedy?" Dana warned. "They are cornered animals now. They have one card left to play." "What is that?" "Public opinion," she said. "If they can't beat you in court, they will try to destroy you in the court of public opinion. They will make you the villain of the story to anyone who will listen." I thought about Ashley's text. He is practicing speeches. I thought about the engagement party coming up. The one Tyler was planning to use as a stage. "Let them try," I said. But as I drove home, I knew the battle wasn't over. It was just moving to a different arena. The final confrontation wouldn't be in a quiet conference room. It would be loud. It would be messy. And it would happen in front of everyone we knew. I touched the folder on the passenger seat. I was ready. The invitation arrived 3 days after the mediation. It was heavy. Cream-colored cardstock with gold foil lettering, the kind that cost $5 apiece. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the engagement of Tyler Stewart and Ashley Miller. Saturday, November 12th, 7 o'clock in the evening, the Stewart residence." I stared at it. The audacity was almost impressive. Tyler was under investigation for felony identity theft. He was drowning in debt he had stolen to conceal, and he was throwing a lavish engagement party at our mother's house. But it wasn't just a party. I knew that. It was a stage. Ashley had warned me. He was practicing speeches. He was going to use this event, a gathering of extended family, friends, and community members, to solidify his narrative. He was going to paint himself as the resilient hero and me as the bitter, unstable sister who was trying to tear the family apart. My first instinct was to throw the invitation in the trash. Why go? Why walk into the lion's den? But then I thought about the text from my cousin Sarah. He got me too. I thought about my grandmother's missing tax returns. I thought about the silence of the relatives who were still on the fence, the ones who were hearing Marlene's poisoned whispers. If I didn't go, my absence would be the evidence they needed. "See?" they would say. "She doesn't care. She's isolating herself. She is the problem." If I went, I could be the proof. I called Alina. "I need you to do something for me." I said, "Anything." She answered, "Do you want me to slash his tires?" "Because I know a guy." "No." I said, "I need you to come to a party, and I need you to bring your notary stamp." Saturday night was cold and clear. I wore a navy blue dress, simple and sharp. I carried a small clutch. But inside my larger tote bag, which Alina carried, was a plain manila folder. We pulled up to Marlene's house. The street was lined with cars. There were balloons tied to the mailbox. Music thumped from the backyard. "Ready?" Alina asked, checking her lipstick in the mirror. "No," I said, "but let's go." We walked up the driveway. The front door was open. Inside, the house was packed. Marlene had gone all out. There were catered trays of hors d'oeuvres, an open bar in the kitchen, and floral arrangements that must have cost a fortune. As I stepped across the threshold, the air in the room seemed to shift. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. I saw Aunt Linda nudge Uncle Mike. I saw Cousin Sarah look down at her drink. I saw neighbors I had known since childhood whisper behind their hands. "Kennedy." Marlene's voice cut through the murmur. She was standing near the fireplace, wearing a silver dress that looked new. She walked toward me, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She was smiling, but her eyes were like flint. "You came," she said, reaching out to touch my arm. I flinched, but didn't pull away. I was invited. I said. Marlene leaned in close. Her perfume was overpowering. a sweet, cloying scent that masked the smell of alcohol on her breath. "I am glad you are here," she whispered, her voice dropping so only I could hear. "Because tonight is your last chance." "My last chance for what?" I asked. "To fix this," she hissed. "Tyler is going to make a speech later. If you stand there and smile, if you hug him and tell everyone you dropped that ridiculous police report, we can be a family again. And if I don't?" Marlene's fingers dug into my arm. "If you don't," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and desperation, "I am going to tell everyone the truth about you. I will tell them about your breakdown. I will tell them you are unsafe. I will tell them you are a danger to yourself and others." I stared at her. It was a chilling escalation. She was moving from financial extortion to character assassination. She was threatening to declare me mentally incompetent to discredit me. I pulled my arm away. "You do what you have to do, Mom," I said calmly, "and I will do what I have to do." I walked past her, signaling Alina to follow. We found a spot in the corner of the living room. I accepted a sparkling water from a passing waiter. I scanned the room. Tyler was on the patio, holding court. He was laughing, clapping men on the back, looking for all the world like a successful entrepreneur celebrating a milestone. Ashley was next to him, looking pale and terrified. She kept touching the ring on her finger as if it were burning her skin. For an hour, I circulated. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just said hello. "Hi. Uncle Mike?" "Yes. Work is good." "Hi. Mrs. Gable?" "No. I haven't moved. Still downtown." My normalcy was my weapon. I wasn't the hysterical, unstable woman Marlene had described. I was calm. I was lucid. And that dissonance was making people uncomfortable. At 8:30, the music lowered. Tyler stepped into the center of the living room. He held up a glass of champagne. "Everyone!" he shouted. "If I could have your attention." The room quieted. Marlene beamed from the sidelines, clutching her hands to her chest. "I just want to thank you all for coming," Tyler began, his voice thick with emotion. "This year, well, it has been a tough year, a really tough year." He paused, letting the sympathy ripple through the room. "Building a business is hard," he said, "and sometimes life throws you curveballs. People you thought you could count on, they disappear. People you thought had your back, they turn out to be looking out for number one." He looked directly at me. The room followed his gaze. I stood still, my face impassive. "But," Tyler continued, puffing out his chest, "the Stewart family doesn't quit. We don't fold. We rebuild. And I am so lucky to have a partner like Ashley and a mother like Marlene, who believe in me even when the world tries to knock me down." "Here, here," Uncle Mike shouted. "So," Tyler said, raising his glass higher, "to resilience, to love, and to cutting out the toxicity in our lives so we can finally thrive." He drank. The room applauded. Though the clapping was scattered and hesitant, now was the time. I handed my glass to Alina. I took the manila folder from her tote bag. "Excuse me," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but in the lull of the applause, it carried. I stepped forward. Tyler's smile froze. Marlene took a step forward, her hand raised as if to stop traffic. "No," Marlene said sharply. "No speeches. Kennedy, this is Tyler's night. I think a toast is in order." I said. I walked to the center of the room, stopping 10 feet from Tyler. "I am not here to make a speech about toxicity," I said, looking around the room. "I am here to clarify a few things about hard times." "Kennedy, don't," Tyler warned, his voice low. I opened the folder. I pulled out a single sheet of paper. "This," I said, holding it up, "is a printout of a group chat titled Dinner Plan. It is dated 3 days before the dinner at the Gilded Lily." I began to read. "Tyler, we need to pick a place that is expensive, somewhere she cannot just offer to pay for the appetizers and bail." Marlene, "If we order enough wine before the bill comes, she will feel too guilty to cause a scene." A murmur went through the room. Someone gasped. "That is private," Marlene shrieked. "You are violating our privacy." It was sent to me. I said, by someone in this room who was tired of the lies. I pulled out the next paper. This, I said, is a credit inquiry from Lakeshore Meridian Finance, dated 2 days before the dinner. It is an application for a $15,000 loan. I looked at Tyler. It was made in my name, I said, using my social security number. But the IP address belongs to Tyler Stewart's home router. Lies! Tyler shouted. He lunged forward. Trying to grab the paper, Alina stepped in front of me, blocking him. Back off, she said. Her voice was pure steel. I held up the third paper. This is the police report. I said, report number 25994, filed for identity theft and fraud. The room was deadly silent now. The festive atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by the cold, hard vacuum of truth. You say I abandoned you, I said, looking at my family. You say I am selfish. You say I am unstable. I dropped the papers onto the coffee table. I offered to pay for verified bills. I said, I offered to pay the electric company directly. I offered to pay the pharmacy directly. I offered to pay for financial counseling. I looked at Marlene. You refused. Mom, every single time, you said, just give us the cash. You didn't want help. You wanted control. And when I stopped giving it to you, you decided to take it by force. You are ruining us. Marlene screamed. She was crying now. Ugly. Mascara-stained tears. You are humiliating us on purpose. Why do you hate your family? I don't hate you. I said, I just refuse to be your bank account anymore. Tyler was shaking. He looked like a cornered animal. Nobody believes you, he yelled. You are crazy. She is off her meds. Everyone, she is having a breakdown. Then, a voice cut through the noise. It was quiet, shaking, but clear. Stop it, Tyler. Everyone turned. It was Ashley. She was standing by the patio door. Her face was pale. She was twisting the ring on her finger. Ashley? Tyler said, his voice faltering. Baby, don't listen to her. She is telling the truth, Ashley said. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before. What? Marlene whispered. Ashley looked at Tyler, tears streaming down her face. I found the notices. Tyler, in the trunk of your car, the default letters from Lakeshore Meridian. They were addressed to Kennedy. Ashley, shut up, Tyler roared. No, she yelled back. You told me the business was taking off. You told me you paid for this ring with your bonus. She pulled the ring off her finger. I called the credit card company. She said, I saw the statement on your mom's counter. You bought this ring on Marlene's card. You are putting your mother in debt to buy me jewelry I don't even want. She threw the ring. It hit Tyler in the chest and bounced onto the floor with a tiny, metallic clink. This isn't hard times. Tyler, she sobbed. This is lying. You are just lying to everyone. She turned and ran out the back door. The room fractured. It wasn't a clean break. It was a chaotic shattering. Cousin Sarah stood up. I told you, she said to her husband. I told you he was lying. Uncle Mike looked at Marlene, his face red. You used your card for the ring? Marlene, you told me you couldn't afford your heart medication. Marlene stood in the center of the ruin. She looked at the guests, at the relatives who were now backing away, grabbing their coats, whispering in disgusted tones. She looked at me. Her face twisted. The mask of the victim fell away, revealing the raw, ugly entitlement beneath. I expected you to fix it, she screamed at me. The confession hung in the air. I expected you to fix it like always, she continued, her voice rising to a shriek. You are the strong one. You are the one with the money. What are we supposed to do? Starve? It is your job. Kennedy, you promised your father. It was the truth. Finally, it wasn't about love. It wasn't about loyalty. It was about function. I was the fixer. I was the resource. And my only crime was resigning from the position. I promised my father I would live a good life, I said quietly. Not that I would fund a lie. I turned to Alina. Let's go. We walked to the door. Kennedy! Tyler shouted after me. Where are you going? The cops are going to be here on Monday. You have to help me. I stopped in the doorway. I looked back at him. He looked small. He looked pathetic. He looked like a stranger. I already helped you. Tyler, I said. How? He cried. I stopped you. I said, I walked out of the house. I walked down the driveway, past the balloons, past the cars of the people who had come to watch a coronation and witnessed an execution. I got into Alina's car. Drive, I said. As we pulled away, I didn't look back. I didn't look at the house where I grew up. I didn't look at the window where my mother was likely screaming at the walls. I looked forward. The road was dark, but the headlights cut a clear, bright path through the night. I was alone. My phone was silent. My family was gone. But for the first time in my life, I was free. I had paid my $65, and I had bought my life back. Thank you so much for listening to I Paid My $65 Share and Left My Family with the $3,000 Tab. I hope this story resonated with you. It's a harsh reminder that sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are the ones with the people who raised us. I would love to hear from you. Where are you listening from today? Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with family over money? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories for more deep dives into family drama, betrayal, and justice. Your support means the world to me. Until next time, take care of yourselves and check your credit reports.